So, not very far from where we're gathered today and right in the heart of Montreal, there's an incredible place called the Mont Royal Park. It's one of the largest green spaces in the city. It's built around a 670-foot tall hill, making it, by design, the highest point in the city, offering breathtaking views. For anyone who's ever visited Montreal or had any extended stay, chances are you spent some time there. It's become a multi-use park, home of outdoor enthusiasts, public gatherings, and a cornerstone of our city's identity. But oddly enough, it wasn't designed this way. In the mid-1800s, Montreal, like many other cities at the time, was rapidly industrializing, and this growth was followed by typical challenges: overcrowding, pollution, and a lack of accessible public spaces. City officials realized they needed something to balance the chaos that comes with urban living. And so they sat down and asked themselves a very important question: what kind of city do we want to be? And so they commissioned the services of world-renowned landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted. And if his name sounds familiar, it's because he was also the co-designer of Central Park in New York City. I mean, he had a decent resume. And Olmsted's task was to build a giant public park. And so he got to work. He meticulously designed every aspect of his vision. His objectives were very precise: create a place for people to reconnect with nature, rooted in his belief that thoughtful infrastructure, like his design, could shape human behavior. In other words, could control the way people experienced it. So what happened next was really interesting. His design was successful and provided an outlet for the people. But over time, it underwent another unexpected transformation. For starters, the long winding slopes he added for people to enjoy their afternoon strolls. Well, it became a perfect spot for runners, and they grew in large numbers, creating running clubs and even races. Then people began organizing all sorts of ad hoc activities, like artisanal vendor shops and outdoor music festivals, even battlegrounds for fantasy role-playing. Areas in the neighboring areas began to increase in property value, as did tourism, and they eventually saw the formation of a weekly Sunday afternoon drum circle, now famously known as the Tam Tams, a reference to the sound of the drums, which has become a Montreal staple. So all these things and more, completely unexpected and completely spontaneous. In the end, Mont Royal Park far exceeded anything that Olmsted himself could have envisioned. And it's because the people of Montreal redefined its purpose. It resulted in improved public health, economic prosperity, and became a place of cultural expression and vibrancy. So in the end, it wasn't only a change in the physical landscape of the city, but in the social one as well. And while Olmsted gave Montrealers a stage, it's the people that wrote their own script. You see, we often think of cities as these fixed concrete realities, born and shaped by our ideas. Towering skyscrapers, symmetrical streets with people moving inside like parts of a perfectly engineered system. This is known as urban determinism, the idea that we can determine how people live within a rational city. So as planners, we go about adding zoned areas and street grids and transportation systems, all in an effort to create some form of order, like a giant domino setup. The deterministic view assumes that planners can foresee the outcomes of their design, creating these predictable and controlled environments where human behavior is corrected by shaping it through various rules. But experience has shown us that the opposite can be true, that regardless of the planning, any incremental change can have a ripple effect into unexpected outcomes. And it's because humans are incredibly unpredictable, and we find new and creative ways to interact with our physical world. This idea, that wasn't the worst one I saw, by the way. This idea was popularized by author and journalist Jane Jacobs. To her, cities were about people interacting freely and neighborhoods growing organically. She saw the beauty in the everyday decisions people made within their own communities, which she referred to as their free will. And free will is a basic example of chaos theory, or more specifically, the butterfly effect. And no, not that Ashton Kutcher movie, although it's a good movie. The butterfly effect states that in any system, even one tiny change can snowball into unexpected consequences. So even when things are governed by plans and structure, the results can be completely random. In the context of cities, this is when individuals act in ways that go against the intended purposes of city spaces or buildings. It's oftentimes very difficult to predict and can shape cities in ways that planners can never foresee. And to be specific, free will isn't about rampant chaos or people breaking rules. It's more about creating environments that invite everyone to play. A spontaneous community garden in an abandoned parking lot. the rise of working-class suburbs due to increasing rents, or even communities adopting cycling as their main mode of transportation due to traffic congestion. All these are examples of free will. It recognizes that no future is certain and prepares for infinite possibilities. So while we know that any city can benefit from a framework that provides structure, like determinism, because having some form of order is a good thing, we also know that people will find ways to exercise their free will. So the obvious question remains, how do we build cities that optimize functionality while at the same time create environments where people can thrive? It's a difficult question to answer. We could always start from scratch and just go Elon's way and colonize Mars, but I think that's more of a plan B. I think that cities could benefit when they encourage these two forces to coexist. It's called adaptive design. And our abilities to build the cities of the future will depend on our willingness to adopt it. It's a framework consisting of building flexible systems that can adapt to changing needs over time. And it does this by emphasizing three main principles. Flexibility in its approach, that's to say continuous input and adaptability. Scalability in its design, so accounting for growth. And human agency, which is basically understanding the impact it has on people. And the possibilities are endless. Modular buildings that can grow over time by adding pieces with ease. Scalable infrastructure like bridges that can increase their capacity based on demand with minimal design efforts. Smart buildings that can optimize energy efficiency by monitoring usage and adjusting controls automatically. Or even adaptive lights systems that can monitor real-time traffic and make adjustments, increasing mobility while decreasing traffic. All these examples of adaptive design allow cities to evolve and prevent locking people into these rigid, unchangeable systems. It bridges the gap between determinism and free will, because while one side provides the much-needed structure, the other side brings the vibrancy. And after all, a city is more than just a collection of roads and buildings. It's like a living organism. Its design should be fluid, able to adapt as the city's pulse changes. So our goal shouldn't just to be building cities that function well, but cities that thrive while maintaining all those things that keep them incredible. The Superblocks in Barcelona are one of my favorite examples of adaptive design. It's an innovative planning concept designed to reconfigure the city's grid to accommodate pedestrians and cyclists while minimizing noise and traffic pollution. Each giant block combines 9 city blocks into one larger zone, keeping most of the cars on the exterior and leaving the interior for pedestrians. What they noticed over time was that residents began utilizing the newly available spaces for all sorts of communal activities. So it wasn't only a revolutionary design, but it improved people's quality of life. The superblocks are a prime example of how you can create order but still leave room for possibilities. And in the end, the results were these incredible microcosms of communities. Flexible, scalable, and creative. I've been fortunate to have been involved in a variety of large-scale city projects, from roads to bridges to community centers and schools. In that time, I've learned 2 important lessons. The first, in Canada, adding bike lanes, not always a good thing. We have this thing called winter here. The second, and more importantly, the things that we choose to create and to build can have an immense impact on cities and the communities within them. And that lesson is becoming more and more important every day. A recent study by the United Nations on world urbanization predicts that by 2050, nearly 70% of the world's population will live in urban areas. That's an estimated 2.5 billion people added to cities. Factoring in major weather events like floods and hurricanes, along with advancements in technology and artificial intelligence, and the way we build things and the materials we use, it's becoming ever more important that cities adopt flexible practices that don't crack under the pressures of change, but thrive because they embrace it. Our world is changing. If our designs are too rigid, our cities become outdated and inefficient. And as a result, we limit our people's potential. So we should remember that our goal is to design for how people live, not how we want them to. And to accomplish this, we need to be intentional. Because in the end, it's the little things that matter most. And if you're curious about what I mean by that, this is the exterior quad at Ohio State University, also known as the Hansford Quad. It's a central area on campus surrounded by academic buildings. It's a basic hub for student life. In an effort to save those precious minutes between classes, students would often favor the shortest distance between the buildings, and over time had worn out their own paths on the lawn. University planners took note of this, and they saw an opportunity. And eventually, they paved over the actual routes the students were already taking. It became more efficient and aligned with the students' needs. Art imitating life. This was beyond architecture and design. It was about empowering the individuals to shape the spaces that they call home. So my message is to all the current and future engineers, architects, and planners, some of which are maybe in this room today. I would recommend that you plan with purpose, but leave room for possibilities. Let's stop building cities that answer one question, and let's design cities that spark 1,000 new ones. When we embrace this philosophy, we encourage not only the cities, but the people within them. Mont Royal Park taught us that predicting the future is near impossible, but we can build cities for whatever comes. And as we've learned, and because of what we learned, people can be unpredictable, but wildly imaginative. And since every tiny change can have far-reaching consequences, let's remember to ask ourselves, what kind of city do we want to be? Thank you.